It's time to enter the world of real estate with Hawaii's only true real estate show, the Team Lally Real Estate Show. Grab a pen and get ready to take notes. Hawaii's premier real estate leaders, Adrienne Lally and Attilio Leonardi, will bring you the latest in real estate news and real-world strategies on how they can guarantee to sell your home at a price and deadline you agree to, or they'll buy it. Now, here are your hosts, Adrienne and Attilio.
Welcome to the Team Lally Real Estate Show, home of the Guaranteed Sold program, or we'll buy it. If you have any real estate questions, you can reach us at 633-8633. That's 633-8633, or on teamlally.com, and that's Lally.
Well, hey, everybody, this is Attilio. I was snorkeling, Molokini, just enjoying the view below, looking at all the fish. The water was very clear. It was a nice, warm, and sunny day. This lady tapped me on the shoulder. Believe it or not, I could hear her under the water. She started asking me a bunch of tax and legal questions. I said, those are great questions. Highly recommend that you seek the appropriate licensed professional. But, Mom, what other questions do you have? So, today's show, if you hear anything sounds like legal advice, you're going to go see the Attorneys with Heart?
Yes, Keenan Heron right here in Wailuku.
Yeah, go run that stuff past them. If you hear anything that sounds like tax advice, go check it out with a tax person. Because today, and only for today, we're realtors and we're going to be talking about real estate.
Yes, and we do have some quotes to start our show off.
Always have the quotes.
So
I think people tune in just for the quotes and then they leave.
That's okay.
No,
because they're important quotes.
Maybe we got to put the quotes at the end.
Well, we can add them to the end.
Okay.
Start them and finish it. Okay, so the first quote is, we've taken this from the book that we're going to be going over here later on in the show. We have an author. It's a very special guest.
The author is calling in.
But this comes from his book. Be like a postage stamp. Stick to one thing until you get there. And that was from Josh Billings.
Josh Billings. It's the first quote in the book
that we're going to be talking about
The
later.
One Thing. So stay tuned as we talk to this author, because this is I tell people it's my second favorite book. I read How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie, and then this book right here, I think it just has really great I would say sage advice on how, I think what a lot of the taglines,
just life skills,
how to get more out of life. Yep.
Okay, and then of course we have to have our Jack Handy quote.
Yeah, what's the Jack Handy quote?
All right. When you die, if you go somewhere where they ask you a bunch of questions about your life and what you learned and all, I think a good way to get out of it is just say, no speak English.
If you had the pearly gates, pretend you speak English, but if you're going down where it's warm, no speak English.
All right, so we have Brady Spangler from Axia Home Loans.
The honest banker. Brady.
Aloha, team. How are you?
Always great.
Doing great, Brady. So, in honor of our show today and the one thing,
yes,
we have a question for you about your one thing. What's your one thing that you do that nets you 80% of your results?
I think if I had to say one thing, I would say execution.
Yeah.
So many people in the business promise the world and don't deliver. Everybody's eager to take in every deal they can without really analyzing the parameters and the variables up front and giving a accurate opinion. If I don't know the answer, I'm going to go find the answer before I give my opinion to the agent or the client. And I think that saves your reputation down the road, because people know that if I take in a deal, I'm going to get it done.
Yeah.
And, that's what I think has led to has helped my success winning over agents and clients, is I do what I say I'm going to do in a timely manner that I say I'm going to do it.
Yep.
And if I don't know the answer, research it. A lot of people, just are so eager to bring something in so quickly without doing their due diligence, and then they can't do the deal, after they said they could do the deal, and then it just runs into, a huge issue down the road, and then you've lost your trust of your referral partners and clients,
Yeah, we had that situation happen a while ago where, the honest lender like yourself said, hey, you've got a foreclosure or short sale in your past.
Mm-hmm.
We're not going to be able to give you a pre-approval. And then another lender said, oh, not a problem.
We'll take care of it. We can do that.
And then when the rubber hit the road, they couldn't do it. It's like, I mean, if someone's got a bankruptcy in their past, it's not like one lender is going to be able to do it and one's not, unless they're like charging some.
Unless it's like a hard money loan.
Yeah.
So.
Well, absolutely, and I think it's such a competitive industry out there right now. Everybody's trying to fight for every deal, and in doing so, I get lender fallout all the time. Well, hey, we can do that. We can do that. You submit everything in. You're doing. Your client does all this work, and you get to the underwriter, and the underwriter says no, or they didn't package it correctly. So, I mean, it just pays to stick with somebody that has the track record, has the reviews, the customer satisfaction, the experience, because it's all going to save you time and money at the end of the day.
So speaking of reviews, I see that you have quite the review status on Zillow. I think you have like 18 or 19.
I think I'm up to like 20. It should be up to over 25 or 27 maybe.
Wow.
That's good.
And that says a lot too, because that's like, the customers are going there and sharing their experience.
Yeah.
And I think it's, I don't like to get up there and tell people, hey, this is how great I am, blah, blah, blah. My actions speak louder than my words. And I've just always been a man of proving what I say I'm going to do. And then at the end of the transaction, when, the buyer's side, the seller's side, everybody's happy with, the performance and the execution, I don't need to say anything else.
Yeah. I know that's important too. When you, a lot of times on our listings, a lot of agents will call and say, well, how come I have to go get an approval from your lender? And I'm like, no, we're not saying it's not required, because you can't do that.
It's requested.
It's requested or highly recommended, because to be honest with you, what we're telling our seller is that whether or not this, this person can vet them out, it's good for the consumer, because most people just go with the first person that they come across for loan officers and realtors. So it's good to shop around.
But we know that Brady is going to be honest.
Yes.
If he can do it or not, or, are they solid? If they're a solid buyer and Brady gives the green light, we know.
Yeah, because most people realize, if for you as a buyer, you're gonna spend money to go into that transaction, to have to cancel at the end.
Home inspections, appraisals, all of that.
And the seller's got to take their home off the market while we're in escrow and lose out on opportunities with other buyers that were more legitimate or competent to close. So yeah, what you guys do up front, what you do up front is important.
Yes, don't generalize him with other guys.
With Brady from Axia Mortgage, thehonestbanker.com.
Yeah, I did want to let you guys know we're expanding, and we are getting ready to open up another office in Bahia on the North Shore. So,
oh, wow.
Congratulations. We
super excited about that, and that's going to give us, a presence on the south side and the North Shore as well. So
okay. So where's your two locations?
We're in the Wailea Town Center on the south side, and then we'll be in Bahia Plaza on the North Shore, which is right next to Mana Foods on Baldwin Avenue.
All right.
Awesome. And then the website is thehonestbanker.com. And the best phone number, Brady, to reach you at?
Is 264-3798.
264-3798.
264-3798.
All right. Well, thanks so much, Brady, for calling in and telling us about your one thing that you do.
Yep.
And
thank you, team. You guys have a wonderful day.
You too. Thanks, Brady.
All right. Don't go too far. When we come back, we will have our very special guest on talking about The One Thing.
Well, it's Jay Papasan, the author of The One Thing. We recommend Fidelity National Title Insurance Company for your next real estate transaction.
Through its nationwide network of direct operations and agents, Fidelity National Title provides title insurance, underwriting, escrow, and closing services to consumers.
Check them out at fidelitynationaltitle.com or fntic.com.
When you're trying to find the best of the best, Don't settle for an agent that's just like the rest. Pick a team that knows just what to do. From buying or selling, we work hard for you. Team Lally, the best real estate in the islands. 227-2703.
Tired of waiting 2 or 3 months to finalize your home loan or refinance? Maui's Axia Home Loans has a turnaround time of 30 days or less by processing your loans locally.
Take advantage of today's low interest rates by calling our good friend Brady Spangler of Axia Home Loans. His personal cell is 264-3798. That's 264-3798. You know what I like about Axia?
What do you like about Axia?
Well, they're committed to creating sustainable home ownership through responsible lending. Hawaii NMLS ID number 27830.
Do you get really stressed when it comes to real estate? Well, then here's a unique proposition for you. It's from Adrienne Lally and Attilio Leonardi of Team Lally. What they do is offer a no-obligation guarantee. If they don't do their job, you're free to get out of the contract real easy. But don't worry, you won't want to, because Adrienne and Attilio will sit down with you. Establish a price and a deadline to sell your home. If that deadline passes and your home isn't sold, they'll buy your home. Just check out the success story. The team listed a home, and the first open house brought a stream of 22 visitors. Well, the sellers received 4 offers and closed for $18,000 above the list price. Then the team helped the sellers buy the replacement property at $40,000 below the list price. So call the only agents willing to earn your business every single day. Adrienne Lally, Attilio Leonardi, and her team. That number is 633-8633. That's 633-8633. You can also find them online at guaranteedsale.com.
Hi, I'm Adrienne.
And I'm Attilio.
When we work with you as a client, we want to focus on what
your real estate goals are and help you reach them.
But don't take our word for it.
Here's a happy Team Lally client.
With Team Lally, it was a different experience because she and Attilio understood what me and my husband were looking to do and which house we were interested in, and they didn't try to pressure us to look at anything else. They were just understanding, and they said, okay, if this is the house that you want, then we'll wait it out and see what happens. So I think we waited about seven months or so, and finally, the transaction and everything went through, and we got the house that we wanted. So they're very professional, very knowledgeable, very respectful, and just a delight to work with.
Welcome back, and thanks for listening to the Team Lally Real Estate Show, home of the Guaranteed Sold program, or We'll Buy It. I'm Adrienne.
And I'm Attilio.
And we're talking about the one thing.
The one thing. So it's going to be a real short show because we're just talking about one thing and then we're getting off the air. No.
So we have...
It's a book.
We have a very special guest on today, author or co-author of The One Thing, Jay Papasan.
Jay, are you there?
I am there. Thank you so much for having me on your show.
Yeah, so you know what? Adrienne's got an introduction.
Yes. All right. So, here we are, author of The One Thing, Jay Papasan, the surprisingly simple truth behind extraordinary results.
And then there's some other books.
All right. So he's also written The Millionaire Real Estate Agent, The Millionaire Real Estate Investor, Flip, How to Buy, Fix, and Sell Houses for Profit, Your First Home, Shift, How Top Agents Tackle Tough Times, Social, Shift Commercial, How Top Commercial Brokers Tackle Tough Times, Hold, How to Find, Buy, and Rent Houses for Wealth.
And big drum roll.
All right. Oh, okay. I don't have the drum roll.
But there.
Okay, so
it's happened in your mind.
The first non-real estate book in July 2012, The One Thing, the surprisingly simple truth behind extraordinary results.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you've been busy, huh, Jay?
Yeah, that's been our one thing is working on those books. That's for sure.
But like I said, when I met you, we were at Family Reunion. Remember I said this is like one of my favorite books. It's in the top 2, that's for sure. And it was an easy read. It had a lot of good quality information, and I highlighted, took a bunch of notes, and I think I read it like 4 times.
That's awesome.
And one question we wanted to start off with, if you want to fill in and tell us a little bit more about yourself, but what was the motivation to write this type of book?
Well, it was, for one thing, Gary and I were working on just a real estate course, and he wrote an essay, and he just overnight, just inspiration, and he wrote it, and he called it The Power of One. And I remember, as I've been in publishing for almost 2 decades, I said, wow, this is really powerful stuff.
Yeah.
And I understood that, Gary, my co-author, he founded Keller Williams 30 years ago and went from a little office in Austin to 96,000 agents today and the #1 company in North America. And he's very talented. He's very smart. He's a hard worker. But, I wouldn't think any of those qualities is what made him successful. It's his ability to identify the #1 priority and really go after it. He'll stay on it longer than anyone else. And I thought, wow, this is your good to great. Let's work on this. And we spent 5 years researching it.
Wow.
And it's changed my life. I know it's impacted his and his families. And I just think people need it.
Yes.
I don't think we've ever been busier. We have so many opportunities and also obligations. And juggling all of that and finding a path that feels true to ourselves is a struggle. And I think this book really can help people do that.
Yeah. Because everyone says, we're so inundated with today's technology with all these distractions.
And the multitasking.
Oh, and so, I've got all highlights and dog-eared pages all over this book, but I want to jump to something that really struck a chord with me personally, because it was like my big pet peeve, because I'm like, I didn't know how to tangibly debate the situation with people that say, I can do a whole bunch of things at the same time. So,
right.
So your topic about multitasking and the great myth. So tell us about that part, and then we'll jump to a couple of things here that we want to highlight in the book.
We in the beginning of the book, we tried to get some of the bad ideas out of the way. We called them lies, stuff that sounds really true, but in fact it's false, and it's holding us back. And one of them is this idea that multitasking makes us better at what we do. And honestly, a lot of people go there very naturally. You got too much stuff to do. Well, you know what? I'm going to do 2 things at once. That's how I'll tackle it.
Yes.
Right? But when we started looking into the research, researchers don't even call it multitasking. They call it switch tasking. Because what you're really doing is going back and forth really fast. And there was this guy, Clifford Nass, and I loved him because he was beating up on himself because he thought he was a bad multitasker. And he ran a behavior lab at Stanford University, and he designed a study not to prove multitasking wrong. He wanted to find out how they did it. And so he got all these students in a room, and they're like, half of them said, I'm a great multitasker, half said they weren't. And he gave them a battery of tests to kind of observe the difference. And what astounded the researchers is that on every single test, the low multitaskers, the people who weren't good at it, outperformed the people who said they were good at it, including a test of multitasking, the very thing they said they were good at.
Yeah.
And his conclusion is that multitaskers are suckers for irrelevancy. That's what he said in the New York Times. And it's just true. It's a trap. When we think we're going faster, we're actually slowing ourselves down.
And that's number...
I can go on. I mean,
you hit number...
that was the big one for me. And, that and it's time. 28% of your day is lost to that ineffectiveness, and you just make more mistakes.
Yeah. Especially when you're trying to multitask complex tasks. I noticed that you have like a graph in there that shows that if you just stayed focused on the complex tasks, you would actually get it done sooner and probably with lower probabilities of making mistakes than being interrupted and having to restart your brain and get back up to speed.
And I think there was a study too saying that actually people that are high on marijuana.
People who multitask and people who smoke marijuana have pretty much the same capability. Actually,
they're better.
Study. It's crazy. Yeah, this guy in King's College did the survey of IQ tests.
Yeah.
And people who were focused, had one set. People who were multitasking, interrupting the IQ test with phones and email, just like every day at work, right?
Yeah.
Juggling phones and email and tasks. And this other group had taken the test when they were high. Well, the people who were focused, no surprise, scored 10 IQ points higher than the other two groups. And what shocked everybody was that the people who were stoned scored 6 points higher than the people who were multitasking. So it dumbs you down.
Yeah. So we know.
Just don't do it.
Well, we're on Maui, so no.
It's not.
Don't do the multitasking.
No, people are like, oh, okay, we just justified why we should do that because we're doing better. We're better at our jobs than the multitaskers. No, that's not what we're saying on the show. But okay.
But I tell people, Attilio, one of the things I tell people is, look, we're kind of hardwired to do this.
Yes.
If we couldn't notice stuff going on in the background, our ancestors would have never made it, past the saber-toothed tigers. They would have never seen them creeping up on them and behind.
Yes.
So we're hardwired to do it.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Our point is, if you're doing something that matters, you're with your kids, or you're doing your one thing at work.
Yes.
Just for that period of time, make a concerted effort not to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the point. It's not that you avoid it all the time and be
Yeah.
crazy, but be focused when you need to be focused. Be present when you need to be present.
So the book here has got the 3 parts, and you got about the 18 chapters. But I like the first part where you go through, and you mentioned it a little while ago, the 6 lies between you and success. So we covered number 2, which was multitasking. So I kind of want to cover the other 5 items, because I thought, you know what, this is like perfect, because it's a big, meaty topic here. So number 1, everything matters equally. Can you speak to that?
Sure. Again, it comes back to when you have too many things on your plate, we tend to make really poor decisions. And what my parallel for that, if you've ever watched one of those cheesy horror movies, and you see the character under stress, instead of running out the front door, they run up the steps. And you're like, no, don't barricade yourself in the bathroom.
Yeah.
I think what happens is that people see a long to-do list, all the things, and instead of doing the thing that's most important, they try to do the things they can do quickest. And so when you start doing that, just trying to shorten the list to remove stress, you're treating it as if all of them matter equally, where in reality, if you stopped and really considered it, just doing 1, maybe 2 things would make almost everything else not matter nearly as much.
Yes.
And so that idea, that's the first one. Understand that some things have priority. And, we quote Pareto's principle, which a lot of people may have heard of, but it's a truth that, on average, 80% of your results will come from 20% of what you do. There's just a few things that matter a lot.
Yeah. And I think that's one thing that we've learned as a real estate team is that we've been able to leverage ourselves with duplication through admin staff and systems that allows us to remain focused
on our one thing
when working with our clients to better serve them. So I kind of want to, you got the everything matters equally, and I kind of want to jump to number 5, which is a balanced life. There's no such thing. Because I see that kind of like everybody wants to do everything. I mean, kids nowadays are so overscheduled. I'm big in scouting and getting back into nature, and the laundry detergent companies did a study because they couldn't figure out why there's no more grass stains on kids' clothing, because they're all they don't just go do the random stuff like go play in the park. They're all scheduled with all the events and stuff, so they had to kind of reformulate their detergent. But it came back to that the kids need to, with scouting, need to get back into nature and just randomly go on a hike and climb a tree
and disconnect,
but without breaking your arm.
Yeah.
No.
My daughter likes to fall out of areas like slides and trees and break bones.
Yeah. But talk to us about a balanced life, number 5, that other lie between us and success.
Well, I think that this idea of a balanced life is actually very new. We did a study, we did research into when work-life balance first started showing up in our vernacular and in articles. And it doesn't even appear in any articles that we could find. And we did a massive search on this until about 1983. And for a decade, there might have been 100 references to it. And what we talked to social scientists and studied them, and they basically said, in the 70s, women went into the workforce en masse. And they used to have a homemaker and a breadwinner. That's kind of in the past.
Yeah.
Now you've got 3 jobs between 2 people. And that's when people started feeling, especially the women in the beginning, whoa, I can't do all this. I feel like I'm a mess all the time. But people put this idea out there that there was this destination called balance, this place that you got to, and everything would be in perfect balance. And most of the studies that we look at says that's just rubbish. Balance isn't a destination, it's an activity. I always tell people to stand on one foot. Are you balanced? Are you balancing? And so we coach people to understand your priorities and counterbalance. And that just means that if you had to work a long day or a long week, immediately get back into sync with your family. There are things that you can't neglect for a long time. Your spiritual life, your physical life, your family, your relationships. If you go away for too long, you can't really expect them to be waiting for you and get back.
Yeah.
And so if you're really conscious of how you're doing it,
you can find a kind of balance in there where you never get too out of whack on the things that matter most, and you can really stay determined to do your one thing at work.
Yeah.
So,
and we're going with the next one.
What's the next one there?
The next one is number 3, a disciplined life.
Well, this was huge for me. I'm a parent. I've got kids, 9 and 8. And, this is the idea of discipline, and I think a lot of times it comes from the fact that when you didn't do what your mom said long enough, you got punished. And a lot of people have this idea of discipline, and the first thing they say is it's punishment, which is wrong. And then they think of maybe, someone who's incredibly disciplined and that they have this, this ability to do things with just willing themselves to do it. And really, think of discipline. The real definition is more like a disciplined soldier, someone who's had habits of behavior trained into them. And that was kind of a radical new way of looking at it for me, because I wanted to be disciplined in all things, and that's a losing proposition. And so one of the cool things, I don't know if it was a surprise to you or not, but I'd always heard it takes 21 days to form a habit.
Yeah, we've heard that common one, yeah.
Yeah, it's in lots of books. But the actual research shows that, they did a massive survey in Australia of all these graduate students doing health habits, and on average, it actually takes 66 days for whatever you're trying to do, whether it's working out or, doing something like reading a book every day, that sort of thing. It takes 66 days for that to really sink in. You have to work for it almost 3 times as long as people thought before that thing starts working for you.
Yes.
So our big takeaway was figure out the thing that matters most and make that habit. Build a powerful habit around the things that matter most. And that was huge for me because it allowed me to really focus on what mattered with my kids and my family and my work life and build habits. And we just now that's what really high-performing people do. They just one at a time build powerful habits that build on each other.
Now, what I like about your guys' concepts, because I went to the website, theonething.com, and I was like, oh, okay, what's this video over here that's in the beginning? And Adrienne, who was on that video?
Oh, Seth Campbell.
With his 3-year-old. and so and you know what? It's for every parent that has young children. What is the number one challenge at night?
Getting them to bed.
Getting them to bed. And so he, this 3-year-old got the concept. He had the reward system, and it was basically Seth, he's an overachiever, so he made the 3-year-old go for 75 days. But I noticed what you said too is that's 66 is the average, but it's not like you can make it 21 as the blanket statement because it depends on how complex the type of discipline that you're trying to achieve.
And the person
exactly.
Too.
One of my coworkers. I'm sorry, Adrienne. I wanted to jump on that.
Yeah.
We have we call it a 66-day challenge, and you can download a little calendar to do it and mark your days off and build momentum towards your new habit. I had a colleague said, you know what, I'm going to do this. I'm going to quit smoking. And as a reformed smoker, I said, awesome. I would love it if you used our book to quit smoking. And she came up to me, and she had done 66 days without cheating once.
Oh, wow.
And I high-fived her. And she was ready to go celebrate. And I said, no, go print up another one and start another one.
There you go.
She goes, why? I said, was it still hard at the end? She goes, yeah. I said, then you're not done yet.
Yeah.
You'll know when you're done. And about halfway through that, for her specifically, she said, yeah, around day 80 or so, I stopped thinking about it. I didn't worry about cigarettes anymore. That's when I think the habit formed, or breaking the habit started for me.
Yeah.
So it's a huge distinction.
And
what were we going to say, Adrienne? I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Adrienne.
Oh, I was just going to say that it really just depends on the person. Like you say in your book, it's anywhere from 18 to 254 days. So it just...
And how challenging it is, the person and the habit.
And how much they want it.
Well, if you if you have no discipline and you like eating Snickers, just make sure you have to go on a run. No, that's counterbalance exercising. No, and I like the part that it talks about. It's not like like when we say I'm not going to eat sweets, and instead of like completely eliminating it, you would have a little bit of it in moderation.
Just everything in moderation.
As opposed to just denying it, and then you don't have it for a long time, and then you eat the whole cake.
A colleague I work with is a researcher, and she's at her desk all day, and she loves chocolate.
Yeah.
She loves it, right? And she had kind of stabilized her weight. She's not in any way really overweight at all, but she wasn't happy. And so I asked her, I said, tell me what you're doing. And then I was like, wow, you eat chocolate. Just kind of, you don't even measure how much in the morning. She was like, yeah. So we compromised. I said, instead of focusing on breaking that, why don't you do this? Every morning before you do that, have an apple.
Yeah.
And she gets full, and so she only has a couple peanut M&Ms instead of a bag. And just a little substitute behavior, a different habit in front of the other one, pretty much erased the bad habit.
Yeah. So that's kind of dovetailing into, and you've got number 4 here, willpower is always on will call. What's that mean?
Yeah. You know, there's that saying, where there's a will, there's a way, and it is often very, very true. You know, you think about motivation and, you know, mothers, you know, lifting cars off their kids. When you really want something,
yes,
you can do amazing things. But we misunderstand that we think it's available just when you call on it, like it's some character thing. And scientists have gotten people to take a willpower test, and then they will literally measure the glucose level in their bloodstream. And when you make decisions, when you decide to do things, your blood sugar level drops measurably.
Yeah.
And so it's fuel. You're using up brain fuel quickly. And so if they replenish it, and then those who don't, the people who don't, just 30 minutes later perform 50% worse on the same task.
Oh, wow.
And so what I saw is, wow, this is a nutrition issue and it's a timing issue. One, you start your day with the battery charged.
Yeah.
So first off, if you've got something really important to do, like you're really dedicated, I'm going to work out, dadgummit.
Yeah.
Do it in the morning when you have willpower, and then feed it over the day. If you look in mine and my co-author's office, around 10 o'clock, we've got power bars, we've got apples, we've got almonds, and we have a healthy snack around 10 a.m. We start our day with a good breakfast.
Yes.
Then we have a little snack, you know, not a whole meal. Then we have a healthy lunch. And then around 2 o'clock, that's when everybody reaches for the coffee, you know, 2 or 3 o'clock. I go back and have the other half of the power bar. And what really is amazing is I'm actually putting these long-lasting, you know, sugars in my blood system that take a long time to burn off, not simple sugars, and I can focus all day long. So it's just a matter of managing your willpower and making sure that you got your timing right.
Now, the interesting part in that chapter about willpower, I like the title. It's probably the more interesting title in the whole book, Toddler Torture. What is going on there? I've seen YouTube videos. Anyway, if you go on YouTube and watch the YouTube videos of similar experiments, it's hilarious with the kids, what they do. But tell us about that.
It's a very famous experiment called the marshmallow test. And, you know, they were trying to measure, like, whether willpower mattered. And they basically, and I did it with my kids, basically you tell the kid, they have a choice, and a cookie or a marshmallow or a pretzel, and everybody at that time chose marshmallows. That's why it got the name.
Yeah.
I'll give you one right now, but if you cannot eat it for, I think, 15 minutes, right, and you have to sit there and stare at it, I'll give you another one.
Yes.
It's a 2-for-1 if you can just wait 15 minutes. And the vast majority of kids, of course, fail. And they didn't think there was anything significant, but the scientists who did the study, his daughter was in it.
Yes.
And a lot of her students were in it. And over the years, he started asking about them, and he had this huge aha. The kids who had successfully managed their willpower were performing better all across the board.
Yes.
Had lower rates of depression. They had higher academic scores, eventually higher SAT scores, lower rates of depression, lower rates of obesity. And it was just amazing, like, wow, this little thing, this marshmallow test could reveal a propensity for how someone might perform in a lot of other areas. So my wife and I immediately did it with my kids. My son, he sat there like a stoic, you know, soldier, right? Boom, I'm not doing it. I'm going to get the second one.
Yeah.
My daughter ate hers, his, and both the extra ones while we were out of the room.
She's like, forget this. I'm just...
Look at this bounty. I'm going to have 4, baby. So we got some work to do there.
There you go.
We're not worried. We're focused.
Well, I like what you say in the book. When your mother told you all good things come to those who wait, she wasn't kidding.
That's right.
All right. So let's see here. Did I?
Then there's one more.
Oh, big is bad. Is big bad?
No, but it's crazy how that shows up. When someone actually kind of conquers the other 5, and they figure out what matters. While they're doing it, they don't multitask. They even go to all the trouble of taking that thing that matters and making a habit. They do it in the morning when they have willpower, right? And they follow all of those things. They realize then that that's when a lot of times they're performing at such a level, they have to start really understanding how to counterbalance. And then they look up, and all of the success is running at them, and they get terrified. And as coaches and people who've been in this business a long time, Gary's seen it again and again and again. People are like, oh, I don't want a big life. That just sounds complicated.
Yes.
And the truth is, there are models for everything. And big is actually great. It delivers so much for your life, your ability to do things. You just have to understand that it's neither bad nor good. It's just a different approach.
Yeah.
And having a plan.
Yeah, and having a plan. I mean, wouldn't you rather your kids hang out with the brightest and the fastest and the smartest and the coolest kids? You want them to be a part of the superlative half because you know it'll rub off on them.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we have to do the same thing. When we seek big goals, we adopt better habits, and we tend to hang out and seek better people to do it. When you set your sights lower, all those other things come with it, lower activities. You don't necessarily try to hang out with people who are aiming in the same direction.
Yes.
So it's a big thing that most people don't notice unless you've really been in business a while and seen people kind of balk at the performance.
Yeah, because
the fear of success.
It's the fear of success, and what I like, and why I asked you guys, and I'm glad that you mentioned it. Took you guys 5 years of research. That this isn't anecdotal information that you hear at the barbecue. This is factual information, because a lot of people will just make these statements like, well, if it's on the internet enough times, it must be true, which is not necessarily so. But it and what I learned is that, there's facts and then there's perspective or perception. And my son was a great example. We just came back from a college tour, and I took him to Yale. I said, we're going to walk around Yale and do a little college tour. And we're shooting for the moon. It's one of the top 2 colleges in the United States. And it's expensive, but even whether you can afford it or not, they have great financial aid programs. But I just appreciated the opportunity. But he told me, he went to his counselor and he said, you know what, I'm not sure if I can get into this type of college. And the counselor said, wait a minute. With your academic background, all the things that you're involved in, the advanced placement courses you're taking, your GPA, you can get in this school. And she told him, I can tell you right now, you got classmates that cannot get into this school. But it wasn't whether or not he could get into it as a fact. It was just his perception. And then it changed it, and he's like, you know what? I can go to this school. So big is not bad. It's okay to go to the best school in the United States.
And to have that goal.
Yeah.
So just to piggyback or take a taxi ride on that idea, we came up with a story after we wrote the book, and it was actually the story that inspired Good Will Hunting, that movie with Matt Damon.
Yes.
And there's a guy named Charles Danzig, and it was 29 or 39. He was getting his PhD at Berkeley in math, and he showed up late for class. And on the board in these math classes, they would have these big math problems, and that was your homework. So he copied down the math problems, and a couple of weeks later, he turned in his homework, and he said, man, told the professor, I'm sorry, I'm late. These were really a lot harder than they normally were.
Yes.
Didn't think anything of it. And then like a month later, his professor shows up and says, I need you to sign these 2 papers so we can get them published. And he's like, what? Don't you realize the 2 problems he'd solved weren't homework.
Yeah.
They were actually famous, unsolvable statistical problems.
Oh, wow.
Because he didn't know they were unsolvable, he thought they were homework. He actually went out and did it.
Oh, wow.
And that's just kind of amazing to me. How many times have you seen someone who didn't know better, who went and did something that everybody else thought was impossible?
Yes. Because and it was all about that perception, because the facts don't matter if you believe enough.
And we see that with our brand new buyer agents.
Yeah.
They just don't know any better. They just do what we ask them to do, and then they're successful.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I always bring up the definition of a cult, and people will say, well, that company or that organization, they're a cult. And I said, and the best, I heard this from a stage, and the speaker said, who was in part of these different organizations, said, I wish we were a cult, because in a cult, when we tell you to do something, you do it. And so we tell our, now we've noticed is that our as we become more educated as leaders by reading great books like this and having the opportunity to chat with authors like yourself, we're able to incorporate that into our team. So our newest agents are actually more successful quicker than our older agents or experienced agents, because they're like, we have them in the meetings and we go over their results, and they're like, well, I just did what you guys told me to do. Oh, really? That was it?
When they say cult, and I've heard that thrown around too, because, we got a lot of really learning-based people hanging out together and speaking the same language, and they get it half right.
Yeah.
They miss the end. It's culture. It's a culture of learning and performance. And when you create that on your team, right there in your hometown, it's amazing when people just step into the culture, the kind of changes they can have.
Yes.
They don't even realize it. It's just the environment that you've created for them to succeed at a higher level. So congratulations to y'all for doing that.
Sure.
So with our culture, we do a team reading.
Oh, yeah. I put that in the notes. We were supposed to talk about that.
Yeah, so this, we've already read.
Guess what our next book is?
Well, we've already read your book once. That was about a year ago with the team, and like right when it first came out. So we're ready for our second reading.
Yeah.
As a team.
So that's what we do as a team to create that, as you say, culture. Is we read somewhere between 10 and 20 pages at a time, and every week we start off our meeting with a quote, and then we go straight into our book reading. And I can't emphasize to our team. I said, you know what? Out of all the things we're going to talk about, we'll talk about the technical nuts and bolts of what we're doing, but the reading is most important, because it's giving you information that you didn't know. I mean, you only know what you know, right? So
a friend of mine said the people who are called creativity is connecting the dots. The people who are most creative, they're always feeding their mind, so they actually have more dots to connect.
Yeah.
And that really made an impact on me. It's like, wow, I've always got to be reading and feeding that. I want more dots to connect.
Yeah, because mankind's been on planet Earth for quite a long time, and so there's a lot of data out there. I think with today's technology, I mean, with YouTube, they're just more stuff is being uploaded to the internet, in a couple of days than had ever existed. So lots of information out there. Now you've got these other two parts to your book, which is the part 2, which is the truth, and number 3, which is extraordinary results. The one that grabbed my attention, and I always wanted to get a better grasp of it, but was the focusing question.
That's really kind of the heart of the book, and we put it in the middle for a reason. I mean, our publisher said, isn't that the one thing you want them to learn? And I'm like, yes, but it feels so simple. Most people won't accept it until they've already processed the why. But it was a product of Gary consulting business leaders, and they in the consultation, they would agree what the person would do between that week and the next week. And it might be a list of 4 or 5 things. And what Gary noticed is that while these achievers would always do a lot of them, they didn't always necessarily do the most important thing.
Yes.
And so he just started saying, well, instead of everything you could do, what if you only do 3 things this week? What would they be? And then he noticed they still weren't doing the number one thing. And it was actually an act of frustration when he said, and it's been perfected over time, but the focusing question is, what's the one thing I can do such that by doing it, everything else would be easier or unnecessary? And he said, what's the one thing you can do? And what happened was they started doing it, and their success went through the roof. And his aha was, when you only have one thing, it's a yes or no, did you do it? There's no place to hide. You can't say, but I did that. You identified the one thing, and either you do it or you don't. And that's a measure of how bad you want it. And that's just a really good clarifying thing. To ask that question, most of us actually know the answers in my experience, and we kind of feel guilty for not doing them.
Yeah.
But by asking the question, we put the spotlight on it, and the stakes are there. We're like, wow, okay, that is the most important thing right now. I need to be doing that.
Yeah.
And that simple act of asking that question has amazing results.
And you guys helped me create more of a valid point for my life, because up until I read this book, I always had to rely on Orville Redenbacher and his popcorn pearl of wisdom, which is, what does it? Do one thing, do it well. And I was like, there's got to be more to it than making, well, I mean, you made a lot of
How did we miss that in our research? That's great.
I'd always tell people that, well, you know what? I don't think we need to be jacks of all trade and masters of nothing. Why don't you just do what Orville Redenbacher says, do one thing and do it well. And
we took that concept with our team, and that's why we have such a large team, and everyone has their one thing that they focus on.
So instead of a popcorn pearl of wisdom, now I have the one thing and 5 years of research to validate that statement.
Excellent. I'm glad I could help you out personally. But I like Orville. I wouldn't stop saying that.
Yeah. And because I always thought and that I don't know, maybe I thought that I was being, because I don't like doing a whole bunch of things at the same time. And Adrienne, what other parts of the book grabbed your attention? Or what you talked about a little bit, and I know Brandon on our team was going to ask you that question if he was on the line, and I think you mentioned it, but were there other things that didn't make it into the book?
Gosh, there's so much. Actually, when we turned in the manuscript in the summer of 2012, it was 430 pages long.
Whoa.
We had gone so deep, and we still hadn't processed all of it and edited it. And our publisher is really great. He only does one book a year. That's why we worked with him.
Yeah.
And he said, guys, if someone buys a book called The One Thing, they don't expect to see a door stop. We got to work on this. So we went to work for about 3 months, and it's down to it's 210 pages or so. There was a lot of stuff that we ended up pulling out, but we just kept asking the question, what's the essence of that someone needs to understand to take this concept and implement it in their lives? And I'm really pragmatic. I can come off as an intellectual because I do like to research and read, but I only do that because I want to do things. I like to do things better. I want to be a better dad. I want to be a better parent. I want to be a better husband. I want to be a better writer. And so I try to find things to do that. So Gary's the same way. We really wanted to make it accessible for people and give them a path to implementing it. And so when we realized that was what the book really had to do, it immediately crystallized. So, there's lots of stuff like the Danzig story. There's all kinds of research that didn't make it in because it added to it, but it wasn't essential.
Now, you guys, you have the website, and obviously this book is available there. And so we're telling people, even with our team, what do we do, Adrienne? Do we give them the book for free?
No, they all have to pay.
Yeah, we collect money.
They need to invest in themselves.
The best line that I heard was, or speaker was Colin Powell, and he just said, I think that interviewer asked him, how did you go from not a spectacular childhood to the top post in the military? And he said, I read my way up. And reading, and my kids know this, even my 6-year-old knows this, that readers are leaders and leaders read.
Yes.
And so,
that's right.
Appreciate you guys so much for coming up with this book. Any other final thoughts regarding your book, or any other events coming up? Or Adrienne, you got a question?
Oh, what other books are you working on currently?
Well, for the real estate focused people who are listening to this broadcast, we're in the middle right now of updating our first book, The Millionaire Real Estate Agent. It's been more than 10 years. It's still the best-selling title in our industry for real estate professionals, and it's just a guide for building a bigger and better business. So that's what we've been focused on. And obviously, I spoke at 34 different events last year, and my goal is 24 this year. So we've been teaching workshops, and I'm still focused on the one thing. I'm not going to let up until I think that opportunity has moved on.
Yes.
So, during the day, we're working on the Millionaire Real Estate Agent, and when the opportunities show up, we're going out and still teaching the one thing.
Okay. Yeah, because I know if they go to the website, you guys have little, things about the book.
Like podcasts.
Podcasts. I like the podcasts. And
if people want to explore more or find out more, it's theonething.com with the number one. So not writing out the word one, but the one thing with the number one. We've got a really cool free app on there if you want to build a habit. You can put it on your phone and, just start marking off the days. And, getting, reminders, hey, did you do your one thing? We've got all kinds of tools, and, we're going to put up a workbook there in the next month where people can then go through and process some of the exercises. So it's a great place to jump in and, experience the podcast and more information on the book.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you, Jay, so much for joining us and sharing all these insightful tips about the one thing.
Now, I know people are thinking, we just went over the whole book. The tip of the iceberg. You got to get
we haven't actually gotten to page 114, and we'll have to save that for another broadcast. You guys can come in and talk about the success habit. There's so much more to share. But I want to thank you for sharing me with your audience and congratulate you. It sounds like you guys are really living it and doing great work. You've clearly understood that to deliver great service, you've got to have specialized team members, and I applaud you for that.
Yeah, I just told Adrienne this morning, hey, we live in Hawaii. We've got a great, successful real estate business. What do we have to complain about? Nothing.
Nothing.
Not the weather, that's for sure.
No. So, we will hopefully one day you'll come visit.
Yes, and we can do this in person.
Yes.
That sounds like an invitation, as long as I can bring my wife and kids.
Absolutely.
Yeah, bring them all.
It's my one thing.
You got to bring them. The family, it's important.
All right.
All right, thank you, Jay.
Thank you so much.
And you enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
Okay.
Be well.
Well, hey, everybody, if you were just tuning in, that was Jay Papasan, co-author of
The One Thing.
And there's this here, he's got the rest of the title, The Surprisingly Simple Truth Behind Extraordinary Results.
Mm-hmm.
And so if people were tuning in, these are what we call success principles that no matter whether it's parenting, whatever type of business you're running, any kind of nonprofit organization.
It could be a student.
Are these principles in here?
Mm-hmm.
Are these topics, these themes, are they applicable to those situations?
They're for everybody.
Yeah, because I think what helped me with this book is it helped you. One of the big things is not, that like especially with your inbox, that you've got to go through every single email. You can just prioritize and then delegate other things or have a bunch of filters.
Or the other thing is you have someone else checking your email.
There you go.
My favorite is the delete.
The delete?
The delete button.
No, Gmail, we use archive.
Archive.
So that we archive it and we store it so that we can have it someplace where we'll never ever look it up again. No, I don't know what were some things that you got from that book? What are some things that we've actually implemented? We're telling people stop multitasking.
Mm-hmm. So just focus on your one thing, especially if it's something that's very important that will cost you money if you make a mistake.
Yeah.
Like writing a counter offer.
So, I mean, not to say that you can't, people are going to say, well, wait a minute, you can't do two things at once because aren't you breathing?
Yes.
And isn't your heart pumping blood through your system while you're having a complicated conversation or doing something complicated? They're not saying that you can't, your body, those autonomous things is what they're called, can be done at the same time. What they're saying is that when you try and do two complicated things, when you jump back and forth,
that's when things get messed up.
That's when errors occur, and it actually takes you longer. So, for example, as a real estate team, when we're working on our purchase contracts or our counters or our listing agreements, we block the time to do that. Oh, one of them is our communication guarantee. Because if you say, number one complaint with realtors
is that you just never hear from them.
Never hear from them.
Where'd they go? I listed my house. What happened to my agent?
And so we have a communication guarantee, which is we will call you once a day and swear at you. No, that's not our communication guarantee. What is it?
That basically we're going to communicate with you in the way that you'd like to be communicated with, whether it's a phone call, email, text,
carrier pigeon,
Facebook, whatever.
Facebook, yeah, at least once a week.
But if you have a question or concern that is not on a Monday, which is our typical day that we block for that very important task, call us.
Leave us a detailed voicemail or talk to our staff. Because we're on the radio show right now. We can't take your call. But our other 16 people on our team can help you.
That's right.
All right.
All right. Well, thank you for listening, and thank you to our sponsors.
Denise Kaehu with Hawaii Escrow and Title.
Brady Spangler with Axia Home Loans.
Fidelity National Titles, Matt Fortier. If you want to get a hold of any of our sponsors, just go to teamlally.com. Check out our business partner page under our links section.
We also want to give a big thank you to Gary, our producer here in the studio.
Chee-hoo.
And make sure to tune in next week. We'll have an awesome guest talking about something that'll change your life forever.
This is the Team Lally Real Estate Show, home of the guaranteed
sold program. If we can't sell your home at the agreed upon price and or time frame, we'll have it bought for cash. Thanks and aloha!
And a mission.